but that's as far as they took it.
I'll kind of take this opportunity to maybe go on a bit of a tangent. I'm a little confused, I guess, as to why it seems like every business that comes into our city requires a conditional use permit. To me, conditional use means that, it's conditional. We have the zoning district set up for a reason, so that not everybody that comes in needs a conditional use permit. We're asking people to jump through more hoops, pay more fees for a conditional use permit to go into zoning districts that we don't have anything spelled out or needs. So, I'll break this down. I went in and looked under our zoning. We list 39 businesses in section 19 under businesses that would be allowed under conditional uses, 39. 4 of those are filed under actual zoning districts, right? So you could go in and be there, or you can be under a conditional use permit. One of them is a double entry, it's listed twice. 3 are basically just general statements, and 1 is listed in another section of zoning saying that it's allowed in any district. So using Lindsborg as an example, I went and looked at their zoning regulations, and of the 39 that we call out under conditional uses only, 14 of those would be allowed in Lindsborg without needing a conditional use permit. I, again, go back to, it seems like we're making a lot of businesses jump through a lot of hoops and pay a lot of fees for something that should be taken by zoning.
I understand, it really.
I really do appreciate the work that they're doing. I'd really like to see us take a hard look at a lot of our zoning laws and list some of these businesses underneath the actual zones that they apply under. I mean, when you go look at what qualifies for general commercial in our zoning laws, it's pretty vague and basically leaves it up to a conditional use permit. Well, that just doesn't make any sense to me.
They would agree with you.
Margot, aren't you looking for somebody to review the
Yeah.
zoning books?
Yeah, I've actually reached out to 2 different consultants, and so we're trying to see if we can't get some help there. We realize we need changes made. I am well aware that there's way too much repetition in here, and I know exactly when it happened
So I
in
guess
the
then I'm
past.
even more confused. If they wanna do this, why are they saying they don't wanna help us rezone these lots to be able to minimize the amount of conditional use permits that we potentially be able to do? I mean, this seems like it's also a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
So then I'm even more confused.
Margot, what does the regulation say about spot zoning? Is that against the,
Well, you're not supposed to do that. The chairman's real big on not doing that. But like I said, I was encouraged that he made this motion. And I'm trying to get him to realize, I told him that, when I worked with the county, the example I used was the setbacks at the county lake. They kept coming in, kept having to do, variances. That was your sign. You need to fix something, there's too many. That's what we're seeing right now with conditional use permit. And you've seen that I've tried to work on a couple of them lately. I don't wanna do anything where we're not doing it correctly, but I agree with you. And we need some help, we need to get our regs more suited for our community.
Well, I think if we wanna look for a place to start, Lindsborg's a pretty good one to start. I've looked through their zoning regulations pretty in depth, and theirs compared to ours are night and day different. So if we wanna look for somewhere to start, to me, that's a pretty good place.
I will say that I'm encouraged by the fact that we actually, thanks to Roger's proactiveness, we actually have renewable energy chapter, and we have a storage container chapter, which Hillsborough had to ask for ours. I just hate to dog them completely. They're trying, they're a volunteer board, but I agree with you, Zach. I agree, we need to make some changes.
Ruth, I'm asking because I have no idea, what would the definition of spot zoning? I mean, to me, it would mean, you're saying, okay, this lot right here is gonna be this, the one right next to it's gonna be this, right? I mean, I don't think we're asking for that.
The
Set
Family
aside
Dollar would be an example.
blocks.
Well, let's get back to the subject at hand, and we're talking about the industrial park, okay? Where we at with that? Have they called for a public hearing?
I am to set it up.
Well,
Yes.
we started this on November the 30th. They had their meeting on December 13th, and it was on the agenda, and they did nothing with it.
They chose not to take any action that night.
Yeah, they didn't do anything. So on January the,
Yeah,
27th or
well, on
something.
January the 10th, that's when we asked it to go back
Oh.
before then. And then it's heard on January 25th. And now we've got, what, our dilemma is this, Family Dollar needs to get started. Where are we at? We're gonna be 3 or 4 months down the road?
I just got their application. And in order for me to go through the process the way I'm bound,
are you saying the application for conditional use? Okay, do you not have to have that 35 days, I think, before a meeting?
what's that?
Do you not have to have that 35 days before a meeting to set it up on the agenda? Is that,
It's not that many days, but I have to, I have to publicize it in the paper and send out registered letters 20 days ahead of the public hearing. And that's not counting the day they go out or the day of the meeting. And the way the calendar's falling, it's kinda weird this month. So, yeah, March 10th, we could have a special meeting and take care of it. That's the quickest I can do it with
So-
all the,
If they would have acted on the plan that we gave them, would Family Dollar have needed a conditional use permit?
but it would have still had to go to a hearing.
yeah, we really still had to
But
have.
the process has been running a dual path, okay? They were told as part of the original sales agreement that they needed to get a conditional use because it was on light industrial and stuff, okay? At the same time, the conversations had occurred before November 30th with the chairman and one member of their group, that we were running into struggles with business and development, that we didn't have any general commercial available in our industrial park, okay? And concerns are for, we need a hotel to support the canonization, okay? Because their city doesn't, Pilsen doesn't have the infrastructure, we're the closest, okay? So those conversations were going on clear back in September. Then they had their conversations, there was no action. They invited Dave and I to come, and we did miss their first invitation, okay? Scheduling, I somehow scheduled myself not in the city on the night, okay? So then we went back on the 30th and shared with them why we believed it was necessary to look at how we have the industrial park, because the majority of our businesses that have come in and occupied space there better fit under the general commercial than they do under light industrial. So that
Mainly because of the size of the lots, correct?
correct,
Yeah.
okay? We talked to them, it's not spot zoning, because this body, when you motion to request them to change section one, lot number 1, 3, and parts of 4, okay? And then you took the strip that is the frontage to Roosevelt as general commercial, so it's not a spot. You're taking an area of the industrial park, you're basically splitting it down from the industrial, it's called industrial loop, it's the cul-de-sac portion, okay? And you're saying east of that will remain light industrial as it was originally platted? You're saying west of that and all the way to the highway, you have requested to rezone that as general commercial. It comes closer to the development plan that you all envision. And we're still working with a comprehensive plan that's dated 2009. Okay?
I would like to point out too that when I took this over in May, we lost half our board. And anytime you have that much of a turnover, those people are trying to they're trying to get their feet wet. They're trying to get situated. So it's no excuse, but it's part of the puzzle pieces, what's been going on. And the comprehensive plan, previous zoning person, we did go through most of it. I still have notes. It just never was taken on to you guys. I show notes from 16.
Mr. Mayor, Margot, it's your idea to rezone this stuff then?
What they've instructed me to let you know that they're willing to have me do is do a public hearing for this north part of the north section. They thought it made sense to do that. It is kind of its own little area there. They just didn't feel comfortable with the south section because they didn't know if they changed it, if somebody was gonna come in and want it changed again, or what, who wanted what.
So this is only for the north part?
Mhm.
It's in section 1, which is part of the highway, it's everything on the highway.
It would take care of the hotel, the convenience store, you know, it's that Dollar General area there.
I got it.
So, what can we do? I mean, in my opinion, this council voted 5-0 to approve the lots that we indicated we wanted changed. If they go have a public hearing, they come back and say they're only gonna do the tree, we're gonna override, we're probably gonna vote to override that. Is that what I'm thinking, or?
Yes, the other issue that comes into play is the governing body and appointing an advisory board. You are the ultimate authority, okay? And part of the zoning regulations indicate that when the governing body sends a request or a recommendation, at their next regularly scheduled meeting, they are to take action. That did not occur in this case, okay? Came back to you all, that there was no action taken. Mayor instructed that Margot go back to this group and ask for the request to be acted upon.
But that is the action they took, was to have me come say, we'll start the process for the public hearing. So I would like to defend that much of it for them.
So the council has at their prerogative, when you refer to an advisory board and there's an inaction, you have the right to call a public hearing and then make a decision yourself, independent of that board.
Okay.
I just have one question, Roger. If we call the public hearing as a council, we have to go through the same steps, advertise it, wait 20 days, a little bit. Is that correct?
In my review of statute, and I'll have to refer to our legal counsel, that does not appear to be the case for the governing body. You're simply bound to hold a public hearing, take public comment before you take any action.
Excuse me. That is correct. The statute says it relates to the commission versus the council are different. In fact, this council, as previously indicated, has made multiple requests and references for action to be taken. I suppose there could be a question of whether the response is inaction or is in fact a response, indicating partial compliance with the request or full compliance or not. This council, however, has the ultimate authority to approve, disapprove, or send it back. In my opinion, you can go ahead and name request and set a public hearing, take public comment at that time, and then move forward if you so choose.
Okay. Any question?
So, are you thinking sending it back and requesting them to?
I think we need to move forward with it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking probably another 2 or 3 months down the road. You know, we discussed what we wanted, and we voted for what we wanted. And you know, the first time around, there was absolutely no action taken whatsoever. It wasn't even tabled. And, I mean, I'm just looking at the time restraints on it. It's what we requested in the first place.
Okay.
Well, I would move to set a public hearing at the February 22nd city council meeting for the purpose of rezoning, the lots there in, non-industrial park, light industrial to general commercial. There's,
What are we asking?
well, wait,
Okay.
let's see if we get a second, then we'll discuss it, okay? Do we have a second?
Second.
It has been moved second.
Well, I am really confused. Are we asking them to do nothing then? The planning commission? We're
Basi-
bypassing that?
Basically, yes. I mean, we requested some items and it was bypassed. You know, we requested these lots to give consideration to these lots. There was not a hearing set, there wasn't any action taken on it whatsoever. Any other comments?
I don't like jumping in typically unless I'm asked, but to respond to your question directly, Jerry, on November 30th was the first indication of the planning commission to take action. Once they're requested to do something, they need to follow up with that by their next regularly scheduled meeting, right? They failed to do that, they failed to do it at the next one. So if it seems like we're bypassing, to me, it's not a bypass, it's simply moving forward with a request that had been made several months ago.
If we hold this hearing, is it gonna take a majority vote?
I believe it's a 2/3 vote required to move forward.
Now or later?
At your, public hearing to move forward, if you decide to move forward on that evening or the next scheduled meeting thereafter, it's a 2/3 majority vote by the
Okay.
governing body.
All right.
Any other questions? I'll call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Family Dollar Project discussion project.
Okay, at the developer's request, I wanted to share with you their timeline of what we're looking at. The parent corporation, which is Family Dollar Tree, has instructed the developer that they intend to begin the facility by June ending. Okay, Margot has shared with them the standard timeline on the CUP process. There was some confusion over who actually applied for the conditional use permit, because the parcel is owned by the city. So that was the reason for the delay in the receipt of the application, which they filed with the money and doing all of that. But they needed to get the application initiated by the city, because they don't own the property yet, and they won't own it until it closes. So that was one timeline. Brian, and we worked with, planning and zoning on holding special meetings and the notification process. And where we're at, in order for them to construct this project, in perfect weather, they need 10 to 12 weeks. So that means they have to have no later than the second week of March ownership of that lot and can get started. They've already contacted local contractors to do the excavation, site construction, all of that, and they're in contact with local construction companies to do, the site work as far as concrete pads, all of that. So they're working all of that piece, it's just tying down this. The action this evening actually can speed this process up, where they would be able to meet their timelines. So just wanted to share, that's what they're targeting, because we failed to help facilitate the December opening that they had initially wanted. Now they're looking from a business standpoint to leverage that, summer holiday type, to be open before July 4th and everything going there. So I wanted to share that with council. Along with that then is the next item on the agenda. Part of our sales agreement negotiation was that we would construct a portion of Moulton Street, a spur, to allow for their second entrance to the design. One will be on Roosevelt, one comes off of Moulton. When we were in the sales agreement negotiation, we indicated as a city we would build the spur up to the lot depth, which was 285 feet. Since then, I've been working with our architect and engineer, and what we're looking at is just constructing 102 or 105 feet that gets them to the turn radius for their entrance, but would not create a city street that would dead end. And my concern that I expressed with the architect and engineer is I don't wanna build 200 additional feet at this moment, that we may have off-street parking issues that we unintentionally create. And they're in agreement to move that back. I've spoken with Darren, and a timeline to help this project move forward and cost to the city. It is to our advantage to go into an agreement with Renaissance Consulting, which is their architect and engineer for, it would be a lump sum of our payment for engineering, construction inspection, civil engineering, would be $8,500. By doing that, we're dealing with one set of architects, one set of engineers, and ultimately one construction general contractor to facilitate. They'll pay for all of their portion of the project, we'll pay for the construction of that 102, 105 foot street with the curb in it. Darren will review all of their plans to ensure that it's consistent with what we would then eventually build the Moulton Street and industrial, the other access roads that we need in that area. So, just to update you on timeline, what we're trying to work with to facilitate this retailer coming here, and then asking for your permission to go ahead and enter into the agreement with Renaissance, so we ensure that the city's not delaying this project.
They're good with the reduction of the city street length, that's correct?
Correct.
Do we have any idea of what this is gonna cost?
Should be just a rough cost, it's going to be 65 to 70,000 for the, to put that much of a spur in there.
So they'll have to specs them.
They'll do all the design work, do the specs, and then it'll all be released as one big package. It's just breaking it down, and we pay for the street, design and the materials going into that, but the site design, water flow, all of that type of issues will be addressed in one project.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion to approve letter of agreement for professional service with Renaissance Infrastructure Consulting, lump sum payments totaling 32 is citizens communications. An official publication discussion. I have some bullets here. I thought we could take the opportunity to discuss some of these items. And this would be regarding our official newspaper publication required, that is required by state statute, versus putting official publications on the city website, as other cities in Kansas have done by passing a charter ordinance designating their website as official city newspaper. I think we all would probably be in agreement that majority of adults in this day and age are using computers and smartphones, and they can access our newly developed city website by doing that. I'll just throw that out for discussion to begin with. Any comments?
Well, I don't find that true because, and I'm basing this on the older people in my church.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they don't have smartphones, they don't have computers, and they rely on the newspaper, to be very honest with you. My husband, for one, cannot use a computer, a smartphone.
Well, my thoughts were we can, I mean, if a person doesn't have a computer or smartphone, but they do have the ability to utilize one, we've got computers down at the library that can be utilized. And also, we would put our publications, on display out at the city office. That's where we post all of our ordinances and resolutions at this time, when we do those for the public to look at. Anybody else?
Where'd you get that information, 86%?
It comes from a company called PEW, I believe it is, and they did a survey regarding that, and, that's what they came up with, that 86% of the public is utilizing the cell phones and smartphones, computers. I mean, my grandkids can fix my cell phone for me. About all of them can do that.
David, you're saying two things here. We got publication as required by state statute
Mm-hmm.
versus putting it, if it's a state law, how can we put it on official publication of